welcome to Get Your Bell Rung Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, KG Landry, and with me tonight, I have international country music artist, a former professional wrestler, a reality TV personality, Ronnie Gossett. Man, what's going on, brother?
Hey, brother, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk with you.
I'm excited to have you, my friend. Let's get into it. Man, you are a man of many talents. Again, international country music artist. Tell me about that.
You know, I've been singing since I was a kid. I always wanted to be a singer. I didn't really get the chance until I was in my 20s when I did some stuff like Star Search and a lot of those type things with Ed McMahon. But then later on in life, I started really paying more attention to it after I got out of the bar and nightclub scenes. I remember when I would do pro wrestling after my show ended, like Barbarian and some of the boys would go to the country honky tonk I was playing at, and that was kind of wild to see those guys out there. You're like, hey, nothing breaks down in here, but I got Barb. It's okay. But then was able to get some stuff out there and just trying to get some music out there. It's a lot easier singing than getting hit with chairs.
Yeah, I imagine so. Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. And then I ended up in West Texas playing football, and then found myself back in Atlanta doing wrestling and trained with Sarge at his power plant thing he had going on, and was able to befriend people like Terry Funk that got me interested in the business out in West Texas. And so I really grew up in the business watching it at the Greenville Memorial Auditorium in Greenville, South Carolina. We had it every Monday night. It was a Jim Crockett territory, and man, I fell in love with those guys. So to be able to watch it, grow up in it, somehow get into it, then promote it, and all these guys that become people that you have on the shows or work with has just been a dream, honestly.
Yeah. So you grew up in South Carolina. What promotion did you grow up watching?
Man, I'll tell you, it was Georgia Championship Wrestling and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. Then it kind of went into Jim Crockett Promotions.
Right.
It ended up being WCW 605 on Saturday and Sunday night on TBS, you know. And then Worldwide Wrestling, which was a Mid-Atlantic Jim Crockett Promotion thing, would come on Saturday nights at like 11 or something. But
Right. Yeah, I grew up watching Mid-South Wrestling, which eventually kind of went to UWF and then kind of went into with Georgia Championship Wrestling and kind of merged with WCW. So I grew up watching kind of the same guys. Was there anyone in particular that you were really drawn to that was your person, the guy that really influenced you the most to get into the business?
Man, listen, I was drawn to Blackjack Mulligan, okay, a lot, right? And then I never got to see a lot of Stan Hansen. I only read about him in the magazines. My grandparents would get me every month, however many came out, they give me. But I couldn't help but love Ric Flair, and him and Blackjack had a thing back then. And I actually got to meet them after the show a couple of times at the pantry. One night, honestly, you won't believe this story. My uncle would always take me to wrestling on Monday. But one Monday he couldn't go, so I just lied to my grandma and said I had a ride from someone at church. Terrible. I'd have told two bad lies right there. Out at the auditorium and went over. I went to the back of the building and David Crockett is there, and I'm like, "Hey, can I get a ride?" I'm like 10. He's like, "Where's your parents?" And I'm like, "I lied to my grandma. I told her I had a ride." So, we got, but he ended up giving me a ride. Ric Flair's in the car. Another guy, I have no idea. Man, I was scared to death, man. I took them down a one-way street the wrong way. They said, "Damn it, son. Don't you know where you live?" I said, "Yeah, I don't drive, though. I don't know where." So Ric Flair was he was the coolest, man. Even though he's a bad guy. He was just so cool.
Right. Now, you said you went to the power plant. That's where you trained?
I trained with Sarge at his superpower plant. It came here. WCW had been sold, so he reopened his power plant. So I did that, some training out in West Texas, and then got in with Sarge on his promotion, which ended up being a lot of WCW guys that didn't get to go to WWE. So my most of my wrestling would Carolinas, the Georgia area, West Texas.
Right. Now, while you were in training, I've been told by so many people that there's a high percentage of people who just they can't hack it and they end up quitting. Was there any point of your training that you questioned whether or not this was the business for you?
Okay, early on, you know, you got Chavo Senior, Terry Funk, and you're learning. And I would come from a football background, defensive tackle, and so I thought I was pretty okay when I could handle myself, you know. But when I got in their training, they're like, okay, first of all, you don't throw any punches. We're going to teach you. You cannot, you know, that football doesn't mean anything. And I think, what? And they're like, my friends are like, you can't really give an ass whipping, son, until you know how to
Right.
take it. And I'm like, what? So for the first part of it, it was learning to sell and taking bumps. And so I felt like I got my ass whipped by everybody before I learned to give it, they say. And so that was the first question. Then I thought I'm good, you know, go do some hardcore stuff. I get into that nonsense. And then I got with Sarge. Let me tell you about that guy. I mean, brother, he put us through it. I mean, in the ring, working out, squats, the Hindu squats, man. I mean, come on. And so I left that day and said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, Sarge. He says, yeah, give me a call, man. And so the next day I could not move, man. Everything from here under my chest down to my knees, growing stomach was so just torn apart, sore, even the skin, brother. Like those squats killed me, man. Hey. So after I recovered, then I got back in there. But hey, man, that was I don't think anyone trains like that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I hear the training is much different now than it was back in the day. So how long was it before you were able to have your very first match?
I would say about 8 months. And the first guy that I get to wrestle is Wahoo McDaniel, for Pete's sake.
Oh, ho, ho. Oh, ho.
So I'm in the back, you know, and he don't say a whole lot to me, you know. And I'm, you know, he's a tough guy. You can already tell, you know, I knew the stories. And but you know, a lot of people would say, well, what did you do when he chopped you? What, are you kidding me? I took a bump for a soul. What, are you kidding me? I mean, because you know, he was into the carny, and I guess better than my friend Kid Cash, who always told me stories. He couldn't kind of hear, he couldn't pick up something, or so it was a little rough for him. But man, I just sold and I already knew what was coming, so I'm ready to do my thing. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't get mixed up on the carny talk, because I never learned to talk it either, but I understood what was going on.
Right. Now, I have to ask you, since your first match was with Wahoo McDaniels, did he beat the shit out of your chest, man? Did you walk out with a bloody chest?
It wasn't bloody, but it was definitely red, and it was more like I felt it inside of my chest cavity. You know what I mean? It wasn't just burning skin, brother. This was like a thud. That guy played pro football. He was a man.
Right.
You know, these are guys that, man, I'm grateful that I got to work with all those legends and learn from them on the promoting side or wrestling side, because I just admire those guys. You know, those are real tough guys, man. But they're great men behind the scenes. But you didn't want to tangle with those guys.
Yeah. Now, how did your family respond to you becoming a professional wrestler?
Well, firstly, you know, it was like unbelievable to them. It was like unbelievable. You know, I can't believe it. Especially being a little kid. I was a small kid, man. I wasn't like a big kid. I got bigger through football, college, and stuff like that. But I was a small, thin kid growing up. So they knew I watched it all the time. It was like religion. I mean, some people were watching Scooby-Doo. Ronnie's watching Super Friends and then wrestling at noon. That's it.
Yeah. So I want to go back to, you said that you were on you was on Star Search?
Yeah, I did Star Search with Ed McMahon, and
wow.
Later on in my 20s, I did Be a Star in the Charlie Daniels Roundup. I don't know if anybody knows that stuff. It was on the network, you know. Did Nashville Star, did a lot of those competitions, and it was great.
Well, let's start off with your very first one with Ed McMahon. Tell me about your tell me about your experience with this.
I was pretty much of course I had my cowboy hat. I was very American. I'm still American lover, you know. So it's a star type shirt, very Garth Brooks-ish at the time. And so I sang on there. Meeting him was like surreal, being on the TV show. But then this time frame, you had Sawyer Brown, you had Bad, you had all these guys, and so that was amazing. You know what I mean? Like just to be there. And then of course later on, if you get the opportunity to do some other gigs, but what it really opened the door for was a lot of live singing and me getting booked and making more money than when Opryland wanted to hire me as an act in Tennessee, but they only wanted to pay me $400 a week, and I'm like, hey man, I make more than that out here on my own. I want to be in Nashville, but I got to make a living. The kids I already had, you know.
Right. So you went from there, and then what was the next reality show?
The next one would have been Charlie Daniels Roundup.
What was your experience with that?
Oh my God. Charlie Daniels is larger than life, you know, and then meeting him there, you're in a studio. The one thing I can remember is I can't hear anything. I hated being in the studios. We did some like Junction South, which was a Georgia, North Florida type thing. Again, you can't hear. It looks great on TV, but I can't hear a dang thing in there. I'm trying to, you know, it's almost like singing a cappella because you can only hear, it messes up their feed. But, and then they had Be a Star, which was, it was still the same thing with Charlie Daniels absent. And not as good. Later on, Charlie Daniels came to our church here in Georgia and sang, and I was able to meet him and reunite. He's a legend, man.
Yeah. So where was wrestling at during this period in your life? Had you already started wrestling, or was this way before wrestling?
All right, so we started out in college doing the college football, but I hurt myself. So,
I'm sorry, what college did you go to?
Texas Tech University.
Okay.
So the wrestling training would start. The singing paid more bills because I could go to all the honky tonks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you may get paid, you may not. You're paying your dues. You know, could be $10, no bucks, $50, whatever. The fact that you're going in with the legends and getting the beer can pop for Wahoo or whatever you got to do in the car. Hey, that's just, you know, no one understands that life. You either want to business and love it, or you're never going to understand it. You're going to think we are crazy, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, so did you have to choose between one or the other? And if so, why professional wrestling instead of just focusing on your singing career?
Man, it's just, I started a promotion in 2003, which is Universal Championship Wrestling, because I got to the indies, and the way I wanted us to have a better show or a bigger event to be part of, you know. Those guys coming off of WCW and stuff, and they had nowhere to go, but it's just like these bingo halls and stuff. And so I tried to make a better brand. And I found that I was good at getting sponsors like Budweiser, and all these people that would sponsor my singing would sponsor the wrestling. So then I get together. And so my love for that and the able to draw crowds with my promotion, I stuck with the wrestling, because at the end of the day, when it was summertime, there were no gigs for singing. Everybody's at the lake or the beach or something. So I let wrestling take over that period of my life. And then once I was done with wrestling, I got back on the singing again, maybe in 2000, 2020, 2022 during COVID, I started paying attention to that because we couldn't go anywhere but be at the house. So my money, my film from UCW sustained me. I was able to get on Fight TV, and so I was making money in checks and did a Steve Harvey episode. And, you know, without television, everything I was doing was not considered something that could be open or necessity during COVID.
What year did you do the Steve Harvey episode?
My gosh, you got to look up Judge Steve Harvey, season 1, episode 7. And me and Johnny Fairplay from Survivor, who's been involved with wrestling, we come up with a little bit, and I got Big Papa Pump to get on there with me on my side.
Get out of here!
Oh man, it was great. And then
now, I have to stop you because I have to ask you something about Big Papa Pump. I know he portrays this guy who is basically a big musclehead, but not very intelligent. Now, I've heard that he's an extremely intelligent man, in real life if you get to know him. What was your experience like with Big Papa Pump? Is he just that musclehead, or is this guy someone who is extremely intelligent who plays a big musclehead really well?
Let me tell you, first of all, Big Papa Pump is real. However, Scott and Rick are like really smart guys, man. Business, listen, they took care of their money, business, family men, take care of their kids. Hey, straight up, man, to have them work with me and Scott for so long, it was an honor, because the one thing that kind of kept me was try to, straight in line. Because a lot of people will hate on you, or they're jealous, or they'll take your failures and want to expose that and say, hey man, what happened on this show? All that, but Scotty would always speak for me and say that, no, Ronnie does a good job. So I really appreciate it.
Right. Were you able to ever meet Brian Breaker?
We had a show. Let me think with the year here. Gosh, it had to be like 2018, 2019, something like that. It was at Cobb County Civic Center north of Atlanta, where WCW used to do. I ran that big Civic Center a couple times. So I had Johnny Swinger as my champion, Joe Dorgan, and he's been Johnny Parisi in WWE, but he was in ECW. He was my champion. So I brought in Carlito, and then something fell through for Scotty, and he said, can I get on that show? And I said, of course. Are you kidding me? So I put the strap on Scotty Steiner that night in a 3-way. Bronson was backstage looking great as he always did. He was playing football at Kennesaw State.
Right.
And I met him there. He was there watching his uncle, man. That guy's special, man.
Well, and that was my next question to you. As a guy who's not just a pro wrestler, but from what I'm hearing, a pretty successful promoter, when you first met Brian Breaker, when you looked at this guy, did you have the thought that this kid's could be a star of the business?
Hey, I already asked Scotty. He's like, he's only had one match. He's just playing football. He can't do anything. Obviously, playing with a college scholarship.
Right.
He had the look. He looked so much to me like Scotty, not instead. And I was ready to use him already, but I've always been known for using second, third generation wrestlers like David Flair, Reed Flair, any of the coming up, Samantha Starr's Baby Doll's daughter, Tully Blanchard's daughter. I like that because I like to keep that tradition going.
I have to tell you that Tessa Blanchard is, for me, my #1 pick for best female wrestler in professional wrestling. My dream match is having her and Charlotte Flair at a WrestleMania. I think that would just be such an amazing match because of the history that they have with the fan between Tully Blanchard, Ric Flair, the Four Horsemen. I think that would be such a tremendous story and such a tremendous match between those two ladies, man. I have been trying forever to get Tully Blanchard to come on the podcast. He's hard to find, to get a hold to, because my two guys growing up watching pro wrestling, believe it or not, was I always loved Bob Cook, man. Bob Cook, for some reason, was always a guy that I just love watching his matches. And then Tony Blanchard as well. Now, Bob Cook, kind of, he's my co-host on Tuesday, so that's kind of a dream come true, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been trying to get Tully on because he is such an underrated professional wrestler. He really is. So let me ask you this. I've met a lot of people who said they're starting their promotion or started a promotion. I've gone to a lot of indie shows, and there are times that I go to these indie shows, man, and the ring is falling apart during the match. You can just tell it's not put together very well. What does it take to have a successful promotion? If someone came to you and said, "Hey, give me advice on how to start promotion," what would you tell them?
I mean, you need to understand the business, but you need to understand business too. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I would say, if you want to have a successful promotion, like what? Like Mickey Henry is a great promoter in Alabama. He has his own building, and he promotes to his town, and it's packed out. Okay.
Right.
You're going to stay in your town, build it, bring in a star every now and then. You can do it. There's a lot of people around this country do that. That's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to all the towns that WCW went in the B market and C market, because I knew I wasn't filling up arenas.
Right.
That hometown flavor with some legends, some stars of tomorrow, and some guys that you've seen just, right off of TV. So I was able to do that, and that was able for me to use my business background to get people to see a value in that, like Budweiser and
right.
Different people like Hooters back in the day, and just different corporations. Now that's what helped me fund all that when I didn't have the $1 million pocketbook that these other guys have with these.
Right.
It just looked like, hey, well, yeah, because I was able to put a team together. I know what looks like crap, and I know what wrestlers should look like, and I know how the show goes because I was lucky enough to be a part of it. And then I would use mentors like Dave Taylor and Sarge, and even David Penzer. He knew a lot because he was an announcer, but he did a lot. Terry Funk, out when I was promoting out west, Texas, Oklahoma, Chavo Sr., I would take in all this. Then I came back to Atlanta. Jody Hamilton and his son Nick Patrick were part of my shows. Man, they're invaluable. And then
right.
Legends. You got to make money. I mean,
right. And I want to get back to this. You're such an interesting guy, my man. Before we get to it, though, I have a couple of people comments. Pebbles, first, thank you for joining the podcast. Please subscribe. She says, "I'm listening to you, Ronnie. Star Search, pretty cool."
Yeah, that was a great time. I was a bright-eyed babyface kid for sure.
And then Paris Wrestling, who is becoming a regular of mine, I really appreciate it, says, "I have a million questions. First, memories of Skandor Akbar in 2010, months before he passed."
Let me tell you, I was able to work with him on some shows out there. He was really great to me, very knowledgeable. I loved Ak. I would bring in Barbarian for him to manage. He also managed a guy out there who was local, named the Spoiler 2000, Tim Cowan. I just was honored to have him on our shows, and I hate that he passed. I didn't get to talk to him at the end there, but he was really, really good to me and helped my promotion and just helped me a lot. And he was always a friend to me. I didn't get to talk to him more, and before he passed away, leave things like I would like to have him, but he was a great man.
Yeah. Before I get into it, speaking of Bob Cook, he says, "Hello, gentlemen." Bob, thank you for joining, and see you tonight at 7:30 for our normal podcast. You know, Skandor Akbar. It's funny that this was brought up because in many ways, Skandor Akbar was responsible for me becoming a professional wrestling loyalist when I was 9, 10 years old. And people who watch this podcast, like, you talk about this again, Kevin. It all has to do with the fact that Ted DiBiase and Junkyard Dog used to be tag team. Ted DiBiase turned on the Junkyard Dogs first time he used that loaded black glove, and then he went on to join Skandor Akbar, and his group was called the Rat Pack. And that was the very first time I felt emotion like the fans are supposed to feel. That it got me to the point that I couldn't miss an episode because I wanted to see Ted and Jim Duggan, Skandor Akbar all get their ass kicked. Did you ever have a moment like that as a kid when you were watching professional wrestling? And who was it that made you feel that way?
I tell you, whenever I was going to Greenville Memorial Auditorium, I really got behind Barry Windham. You know, he was a taller guy, but man, when they would get the heat on that guy, I got behind all the things he was doing. And the next time I got emotionally invested was when they had jumped on Ricky Morton on television and beat him up so badly, the Horsemen and all these things. Yep. So I really got into that stuff in those days.
Yeah. So I'll go back to Skandor Akbar. You're talking about you worked with him. How was he like as a person? Because I can't even imagine, you know, who the real guy is because he was so good at his gimmick.
He was a gracious, kind man. Let me tell you something. I mean, he would help anybody and did help me, help others. But he loved being the heel and he knew the business. He had the mind for it, the psychology. So I can't tell you just how nice he was. You would not believe it. But I don't think he. If he had an enemy, I don't know who it was.
Right. Yeah. So going back, I apologize for jumping around to different things. My podcast is a little different. I actually don't take notes. I like just to have organic, genuine, a bullshit session. Is basically what I like to do after knowing some of the things that you've done. Obviously with my research. Going back to your promotion. When was it that you were able kind of to just kind of stand up and look at it and realize, man, I'm actually this is successful? What point was it at, where you at with this?
Well, the first one we had in 2003 drew like 2,500 people. So
wow.
On the way, the bar was set so high. It was so hard to get back to that kind of draw. I've only done it like twice. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have TV, but I didn't stay in one building. I used civic centers and auditoriums and some high schools, and we went from the Carolinas and Kentucky and Georgia and Texas, and I used to drive George South crazy. He said, Gossett, you draw 2,000 people and never go back again. I'm like, hey man, I'm the next town. I don't know if I could get a circuit of sorts and have some television out there. Probably could do pretty good, because I remember early on TNA and some of the others like Ring of Honor, we were outdrawing them, and we didn't have TV. But I just had a good eye for who I could pick that was out there available on the independent circuit that were either names or top rising talent. Like, I don't know if you know any of these people, like Caleb Conley from the Carolinas that does Juggalo Champ. That guy is a treasure. I know he's been on some other TV, but he's awesome. And that's just to name a few. Then you got the Mick Steiners and the Carlitos. And so you put that name power with these other guys that can work so great. This never really got to that WWE level, but they probably should have. Right.
Another one for Pierce Wrestling. Second question, memories of Lucky Ali. Did you see, I can't pronounce, Pontiac cake? I can't pronounce what that word is. In him at the time of memories of Reed Flair. But I think she's supposed to say potential in him is what she meant. Yeah.
I got Lucky Ali in a group of guys that would come from, I would rent the ring from Michael at High Spots, who does a lot of memorabilia and things like that, and also does WrestleCon. So I got Lucky Ali with a group of guys, and I would use them. They were training at High Spots, training with George South, and saw a lot of potential. He worked lots of shows with me, and he came along and came along and came along. He would take a bus if he missed the boys coming to 2 states away just to make sure he made my show. This is a kid that went to college, rode a bike, didn't have a car, trained. So I remember putting him in a show in Georgia where I said, okay, Lucky, tonight I'm going to put you against some of the best so you can get some good film and some good looks. It was him versus Kid Cash versus PJ Black, Justin Gabriel. So he shined. He always shined. Then he got the NXT deal or the Performance Center deal. Now he's Saquon Sugars on NXT. I mean, that guy is a great guy. Yeah. And he does it right, trains. He's an educated guy, and he's committed to the business. I'm so proud of that guy. I still stay in contact with him. He got an injury that put him out for a while. But now that he's back, whoa, that guy's awesome. Reed Flair, love that kid, man. Yeah. I remember Lodi, Brad Kane, who was working for me, and he said, hey, would you want to use Reed? And I said, sure, and he was going through some stuff. Everybody knows it. But on my shows, all I saw was the best. A real respectful guy, cared about the business, did his name and his dad proud. I used him against some veterans on my shows. Man, I think the sky was the limit for him. I hate all that for him and his family.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Unfortunately, we know what happened to Reed. It was tragic. And I know we can talk about what ifs to the cows come home, but I'm going to do a what if anyway. What if Reed Flair would have never passed? Do you think that he would have been as successful as Charlotte Flair, possibly even passing up Charlotte Flair's success?
I know he would have been up there. He would have had to develop his persona and his talking and interview skills, I think. But the people were behind him. He had that white meat baby face look. Yep. He had the name. He had the skills. His wrestling, when he was a state wrestling champion, he was really had the skills, did good in Japan. But I'm going to tell you something. Charlotte, who had no desire to be in the business, doing volleyball, she did it because for Reed, I don't know how you get better than your sister. Sorry. I think he would have went a long way, but there's a gap, man. There's a gap so big. I think she surpassed her dad. I'm just telling you, that girl is fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that my dream match is Tessa Blanchard against Charlotte Flair? And that would be an absolute main event on any stage, even WrestleMania. I mean, Jesus.
They can make that happen, and it'd be even better while their fathers are still able to be a part.
Yes.
Tully still has it up here, and he was a heck of a. I don't know if you know, he's a heck of a football player, a quarterback.
Yep.
And that guy, he may have been underrated, but people were blind to see that because that guy could go.
Absolutely.
He him in the Dusty Rhodes era, that was fantastic. That was of him and the Magnum. That was great stuff, man.
Yep. And one more question, then I want to get back into your career. Memories of Samantha Starr and Eric Rowan, aka Redbeard. I tell you, Samantha Starr, someone else, her mom, Baby Doll, she was actually my first interview on my podcast when I first started this. I've been trying to get Samantha on as well. She doesn't ever check her DMs, man. I've been trying to get. Well, I'm not sure what happened. Hopefully, he'll be able to come back. Again, talking to Ronnie Gossett, man. There he is. but yeah, Samantha Starr, I kind of been watching some of her matches, man. I think she's incredible. But what are your memories of Samantha Starr and Eric Rowan, aka Eric Redbeard?
Samantha Starr, she came to me. I think Lodi referred her another one. He's never brought me anybody that wasn't fantastic. And her husband, Bosworth, came also. And he was a great hand. I saw a lot of potential in her. And I know she took a break, but then she got everything dialed in, and she's doing great on NWA. I think she's fantastic. I actually had reached out to her not long ago when I had these new shows coming up, and she was already booked. Of course, they're doing a big NWA thing this Saturday too, so they couldn't very well stop being that for my show. But uh,
Right.
he's a great hand and getting better and better. And as far as Rowan, fantastic guy, man. Huge, big as a doorway, and fantastic, man. I've used him several times. He's a gentle giant, a gentleman. Does a lot of the horror stuff and some film, and he looks the part. He's doing a lot of film, but man, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Wyatt Six. I hope they don't
Right.
just waste that. I know they
Well,
put it at SummerSlam, but there's just so much more they can do. Let's get it on. That's what I say about those guys.
yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. They didn't use Eric, in my opinion, correctly when he was with the Wyatts. Then he split up from the Wyatts. I'm not sure why WWE has not used him to his full potential. I think they're wasting the talent with Eric. I really do.
I don't understand. I know there's a lot going on, and I don't question them too much because they are the standard, the gold standard. But
Right.
I think sometimes um, they must get some favorites or something going on, and they want to keep pushing it to the end because Karrion Kross is money. I don't care what you say. That guy is money.
Yeah. Well,
Wyatt Six is still money, and so
yeah.
I think that uh, we could do so much more with some of those guys up there.
Would you agree that a lot of times being a big guy, and I'm not talking about swole big, like big, tall, and having that stature, that kind of can hurt your professional wrestling because when was the last time you've seen a big guy used correctly, with the exception of Andre the Giant and maybe a little bit the Big Show. But besides those two, I mean, look how many giants we've had, and they were just basically talent wasted.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of when they start jobbing out the big guys to every scenario there is, or they become comedic.
Right, right. Yep,
World, how did Braun Strowman go from being with Bray Wyatt to a comedian? I
right,
remember when him and Brock Lesnar and they broke down the cage. Now, that's real stuff right there.
right,
I
right,
don't. I agree with you. Um, and not that I'm high on the big guys and not the little. I like all of it, but
right.
I'm a big guy myself. I'm probably 6'3", 355. So I was just taught that I'm not taking bumps on the first hit from a guy that's half my size. But
Right.
these guys are, um, I just think they're overselling for their size and devaluing their self.
Yeah, yeah. Now I want to get back into your professional wrestling career. How many matches in were you before you realized, man, I got this. I'm pretty good at this.
I I enjoyed it. I know that some of the independent promoters and stuff would put me over, and I was a West Texas redneck cowboy character, so it just seemed to fit in the South or Texas, or if I'm fighting a warlock or the barbarian or some others unsocially acceptable to the area person. So I was just proud they put me on there. I was able to talk, and I would probably go the extra mile, even though I had more of a clean cut face. I would I didn't mind getting color or doing the dirty stuff. So
Right, right. Now, your name, you have Shooter in front of Ronnie Gossett. Did you use that? Because when I was researching you, you were hard to research because of the fact there's another guy by the name of Ronnie Gossett who used to be a professional wrestler who was pretty big. I mean, everything about that Ronnie Gossett came up until I actually put in Shooter Ronnie Gossett. But is that the reason why you use the name Shooter Ronnie Gossett to separate yourself from?
I got Shooter because I was already singing, so my name's out there, right? And
Right.
I'm a cowboy singer, a country singer, Texas Tech. So Terry Funk said, "You call yourself the Shooter, like Guns Up, Texas Tech."
Right.
I'm like, okay. I didn't learn later until him and Dusty was backstage in Gaffney, South Carolina. They both had books come out at the same time. And he says, "Ronnie, baby, you know why they call you Shooter?" And I said, "Yeah." Terry said, "It's Guns Up." He says, "No, baby." And he told me what a shooter is. I didn't know. All I knew is they would say, "Hey, this guy's coming in with one of these names, Funk or Chavo Senior, and he's the shooter, and he's 6'3" and 300 pounds, and you got him." So now the guy's like in the ring, he's a little scared or he's a little bit resistant, and he won't go. So I make him go. That's what they taught me. Make him go. Well,
Right.
now I do look like a shooter, and I didn't never intend to be a shooter. I was not a shooter.
Now, talk to me about the Rhodes family. How often were you able to work with Dusty Rhodes? How much did he influence your career? And did you ever meet Dustin, his son?
Hey, listen, was supposed to use Dustin on a show in Greenwood, South Carolina. We had Lex Luger, we had Rock and Roll versus the Midnight, we had all kind. Me and Barbarian, Rick Steiner. It was a whole smorgasbord. But I was going to bring him in with Dusty, and then Dusty had got another gig from this guy who booked him, Michael O'Brien. And I had talked to Dusty myself. I'm like, "Dusty, I need you on this show in Greenwood." He said, "No problem, baby." Then when I called to remind him about the show, he's like, "No, baby, I can't do it. You got to call Michael." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Call Michael?" And that really got under my skin, and we hung up that day, and he wasn't mad, but I was mad. And then but he started using Michael O'Brien, so I never got to get Dusty on the show. So that show, it was me against Demolition Axe and Barbarian by myself. So it's supposed to be Dusty. So we brought Buff Bagwell out of the back, but he's not a hardcore guy. So
Right.
they handcuffed him to the top rope and just decided to beat me up. So Dusty is a great guy, great knowledgeable. He had that Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling back when we were talking. And of course, Lodi worked there, and all the guys from WCW and stuff that he used. But Dusty was a great mentor for anybody that watches wrestling. If you can learn from that guy or see how he done business and the way he was so creative. But I never got to work with Dustin. I was looking into trying to bring him on one of these shows before he ends up retiring, but he's probably too expensive now that he's on AEW. But I would love to work with that guy.
Right.
If you can hook me up with that, or Bob can hook me up with that, tell him I need to have Dustin on the show at least one time.
There, my other co-host, his name's Mark. We have this inside thing. Mark had made the comment that he thought Dustin had the best punch in the business. Right? No, that's Bob Cook. Bob has the best punch in the business. Have you ever been in the ring with Bob Cook?
No, I've only met Bob out at Cauliflower Alley.
Okay. Now, I know it says that you're a retired professional wrestler. Have you truly had your last match?
Well, man, I tell you, I had a lot of injuries. Needed knees, hip, left shoulders torn. I ballooned up after football and wrestling to like 495 pounds, kg.
Oh.
I had all kind of health issues, heart, diabetic, cholesterol. Over the last year, almost two now, I've lost 165 pounds.
Nice. Congratulations.
I'm off all the insulin, off the pills. Probably got another 100 to go before I'm where I'd want to be. And you asked me that question like a lot of my buddies do. I don't know. only thing I will say is it would take me that another 6-8 months to be where I want to be, and then would I want to risk it after I got myself back in good health? I don't know, but I would like a one more time maybe.
Right, right, right.
one more time.
So I want to ask you this question before we get to a question from a viewer. Who was the last person you got in the ring with? And if that truly was your last match, is that a match you could walk away from saying, okay, I'm proud of my performance?
It was in Mount Pleasant, Texas at the Civic Center. And I was against Spoiler 2000, and Skender Akbar was his manager.
Okay.
So lucky enough to go over in that match, but then I felt some little heart palpitations after, and the weekend after. So no, that wouldn't be. It was a small Civic Center, probably only 800 people, and but I loved working Spoiler, and I loved Akbar, but no, that wouldn't be.
Right.
I'd like a little more. Little something East Coast, something more along the lines of what me and Barbarian were able to do a lot of times,
Right. Who, if you're able to, which obviously to a degree you are, but who is your ideal last opponent?
Wow, gosh, dang. I don't know. There's just so many guys, but a lot of them are already out of the business, and to do any type of any of the hardcore stuff, it would be a little stretch for anybody at this point, so I would have to get in there with somebody else. So I don't know, it'd be a hard thought, because would you want somebody from your era, or would you be Moxley, who's doing all the hardcore stuff now? What difference would it make? It's got to make sense. It's got to be type of tie-in. So I don't know.
Question again from Paris Wrestling. Fourth question: memories of the most toughest SOB. One from the UK, Dave Taylor, and the other hardcore Holly? Question mark.
Who is this? Who is this guy asking these questions?
Piris Wrestling, PIRIS Wrestling.
They must be an insider. You know what I mean?
Must be. So, this person is constantly coming on my podcast, asking really good questions. So yeah, an insider, or definitely a real wrestling fan.
Yeah,
historian.
I love Dave Taylor, man. He's a great dude. A diamond, man, for training and his character, and just the kind of guy he is. He's a tough guy too. That's a shooter. Him and William Regal are shooters. That's what I think. But I was grateful for our friendship and him working with me, especially right out of the gate, and having me in his home, and just all the things. And Hardcore Holly only worked for me one time, and we had some disagreements, you know what I mean? But it was only verbal, and we made it to the airport, and we were okay. The language on the phone might not have been great, but I hope he's doing good. I don't know if you have anything good to say about me, but I hope he's doing good. So
Eric Thunder says Universal Championship Wrestling means Storm is in the house.
Yeah, Eric Thunder has been wrestling with us for a few years now, and he's a big old boy, about 6'4", 350, and his dad was a wrestler, also a masked wrestler in the Carolinas. And I remember Eric as a young boy, whenever I started UCW, he was at the very first show. He wasn't old enough to work security. He's still a younger boy. But he's been around watching me and that brand for so long that he ended up getting into independence with his dad. and now he's one of our main guys. He does a lot of the stuff with Barbarian and some other guys, just trying to get on to the next level. You know, it's just kind of hard to get out of the indie scene in your state. If you don't get a big show that's going to use you and travel around, let you work some other veterans, you never can get any better. So he's one of the ones that I'm trying to get out there and put them in situations so they can grow and not be stagnant, stuck in the same old, working the same guy for 20 years.
Right. Now, I have to ask you about your relationship with Haku. You have to have stories about Haku and yourself.
Listen, I got more stories with me and Barb, but I like Haku. I love that guy like a brother. I'm really honored to even call him a friend. And when him and Barbarian got their award at Cauliflower Alley, it might sound crazy to a lot of people, but when they asked me to sit at their table, me and Kevin Sullivan to sit at their table with their family, that was an honor for me. Sit there with him, Kevin Sullivan, and Ricky Santana. I just think that's a great man, great honorable man, and one of the toughest people. Him and Barbarian, like the toughest people I ever met, but very kind and sweet. And but their wives are the real tough ones. Let me just tell you, they're sweethearts, but they can keep them guys in line. But
I bet they have to.
I remember one time in a match with Barb and Haku, and I had never got to wrestle with Haku. It was a tag team match, but I tatered him pretty good here. But it felt like I was hitting a telephone pole, and he didn't move his neck, nothing, you know. And it like time had stopped for me. I thought, I'm going to die. I said, I'm going to effing die. Like, I don't know how long it really lasted, but it seemed like it stopped. And I had I had an outer body experience like this. But the real thing is when he got me, he got me into the corner. He didn't give me a receipt. I said, I'm sorry, brother. And I just was ready, prepared to just get whatever was coming, you know, as much as because it was bad. I hit him. Unfortunately, I was about 3 inches too close. And Jesus Christ, you know, it didn't phase him any, but it phased me. It made an impression on me, and he never even gave me a receipt. So he pretty much he scared the receipt into me. So,
well, you said you have a lot of stories about you and Barbarian. Tell me a couple.
Let me tell you, Barbarian's a great guy. One time in Asheville Civic Center, we were working outside into the fans in the stands, and he gives me the headbutt, but he didn't headbutt me. He hit me right here. Oh. There's an image out on UCWTV.com where if you go into the hardcore images, so we try to keep it just to contend to that. The man who was taking the photography caught the blood shooting out of my face. Barbarian's got blood on his head, and I'm like, that's the most greatest shot ever, except that it's my face. So, but we beat each other to death, and I would sometimes went backstage in Texas. We were in a rodeo arena, and we were in the turnstiles, the mud, the blood, the beer, the horse chutes. I remember going in the back center. We okay, brother? We got some heat. He's like, no, brother, it's good for the business, brother. It's good for the business. I'm like, oh, God, Jesus Christ, Barb.
Nice. So, now, go ahead.
I know that he would tell me about guys. That time Haku had to bite the guy's nose off because he called him a racial slur, and Haku said, "I'm no racial slur."
Right.
But, and then it got really, really bad for that guy.
Yeah, no matter who I talk to about Haku, the one thing everyone agrees on, he is probably the toughest SOB in the business. Did you ever have an opportunity to meet Hulk Hogan?
I met him one time. Besides talking to him on the phone, only one time. He went to North Carolina, and he was about to do his reality show, and they worked out a deal up there. And George South was involved. I think High Spots was involved. I'm not sure. I maybe learned that in hindsight. but him and Jimmy Hart was up there. It was going to be the Nasty Boys against the Flairs. So it was Ric Flair, Reed Flair, and David Flair. Rick's going to be on the outside, Jimmy Hart, and they're going to do that. And Hogan was the special referee. And Hogan needed some footage that he couldn't just get it from WWE. So he needed some footage, is what my understanding was, for him to use that for the Pink Sneakers or whatever it was, group that was going to do his MTV or Hogan Knows Best thing. Great guy, though. I'm just going to tell you, he's awesome. Yeah. And then after wrestling, I went down to his beach bar and did the karaoke with him and Jimmy Hart. And he's just a great guy, man. I couldn't believe he's in there on a Monday doing karaoke with people, just having a great time. Hey, that's a good life right there, you know?
Yeah. It's hard to believe that he's not with us anymore. If I was to ask you 10 years, well, where do you see yourself, Ronnie, and your promotion 10 years from now? What would you like to happen?
Well, you know, I have all this 20 years of footage that we never, besides DVDs and clips, I've never released it. So I have all the stars when Lex Luger was still active on Akbar. I would like to get that with someone so we could post-produce it and release it, even if we call it Universal Championship Wrestling Classic. So I would really like to have that out there and have some type of legacy in this great sport of ours, you know.
Right.
And if I could do anything, I would just like to continue to help guys grow and get to the next level and give the guys coming back down a good avenue to finish out their career. And if I could be remembered for doing some good shows and promoting, and my brand be remembered, if there's any type of legacy or something I could leave for my family's name or something, it would be an honor. You know what I mean?
Right. One more question for you. Memories of John Morrison and the most funny man, Johnny Swinger.
Listen, I had Johnny versus Johnny on one of my shows. It was a great one. And again, that's another match that needs to be out there. It's some great footage, but John Morrison was absolutely class act. Him and his wife, he used both of them. Really great draw. Oozes the superstar machismo, but he's really easy to deal with, laid back, gives it 100%, whether there's, 800 or 8,000 there. Right. I really like John Morrison a lot and his wife. Johnny Swinger has been with me since the very first show. And then he relinquished the title we had on him when he went to WWE the first time. Then we got him back when he came back out. And for the most part, he's been with me all along. I think Johnny is a great hand, underutilized, but he's been in all the brands, WCW, ECW, Impact, TNA, WWE, all of it. But I think he's a great guy, and he was a great defender of me, honestly. People would say, oh, Ronnie this or Ronnie that or that promotion this or Ronnie screwed up this or, the show didn't draw good on this and he always stood up and said, hey, I don't know where you get that information, but for me, I ain't never had that problem.
Right.
That means a lot, He would always be real with me on if somebody didn't, they asked the question, why didn't you work with Ronnie? Well, I appreciated those guys. You're going to have some people that don't like you, or you're going to let somebody down, or you're going to have a bad show. You run shows this long, you're going to have some bad shows. It don't matter what you do. I guess because I'm a gambler, KG, but if I'm going to gamble, I'm going to gamble on me.
Absolutely.
And so I'm proud of the guys that stuck with me. It ain't been easy. I'm not out here doing things by not making mistakes, but I just try to learn from them, keep growing, and I'm never going to give up. So that's not the case.
Right. Well, speaking of mistakes, if you could go back to a younger Ronnie Gossett, is there anything that you would tell him to maybe change any decisions that has been made?
And I would just always say that, you should always think about include everybody else's situation. You know, not just if you're going to be a gambler and roll the dice. There's a lot of people that are depending on you. So if you're going to come up with snake eyes, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings or hurt their pocketbook or something. So I think you should try to make sure that you have all your I's dotted, your T's crossed. You got enough to cover for your events. You got some other replacement in case a guy gets hurt or bails on you. There's some things like that. And then I would try to put my pride aside, honestly, KG. I'm a real prideful guy.
Right.
I'm a competitor athlete. And back in the day, I just assumed fight is eat, man. I like to eat. Right. So I would just try to be more humble and gracious. And even though my mind still doesn't think that way, I've been pretty good at that for a little while now. So I'm happy with that. I just want to keep. I remember what DDP said to me a couple years ago, and the only thing he said to me was that what he would wish for me is to be a man of honor, be remembered as a man of honor, not the this and that, or maybe good, maybe bad, maybe controversial. I know earlier they say I was one of the most controversial promoters in independent wrestling. So I don't think that.
I have to stop you. I can't let that go by. Give me an example of what you're talking about. How were you one of the most controversial promoters?
Well, I would always book the guys with problems. Number one, first of all, if they had some heat and they were difficult or whatever, I would book them, and not one of them, like 5 or 10 of them at the same time. My personal life, I would get into some trouble or something like that, or when I was younger, have run-ins with the law or something, man, and it would be public because I was a public guy. So, hey, and so I got tired of paying. I got tired of paying the price, paying with your name, respect, and money. You got to calm down at some point, and try to get your life together and try to get straight. I was never into the drugs or alcohol scene, but I was into the fighting scene pretty good. Or I really didn't go along too good. You know what I mean? It was the way I was not one of those that you could just come around or say just any kind of way to. So now I've tried to be a different kind of person, do a lot of fundraising and try to find the fulfillment and helping and growing my brand that way. But sometimes you can't escape your past. You can't escape what you did. And some people don't want to let it go, but I have to try to let that be on them. If I try to apologize and turn it around, hopefully they'll give me that chance. And if not, then I just wish them the best,
Right. One final question from Paris Wrestling. That I have a final question, and I'll let you go. Interested? This person wants to know if you're interested in doing a book memoir. That also, thanks for being here, Ronnie. And does people confuse you with Ronnie Gossett from USWA? Which that's what I was talking about a little bit when I was trying to research you. USWA that's the Ronnie that I kept on getting.
Right. So yeah, USWA, that's Ronnie P. Gossett. And he was also a heavyset guy. He did a lot of wrestling and was a managerial guy, especially up there around with Jerry Lawler and Tennessee guys and stuff.
Right.
We're no relation. We probably got different lifestyles if you inquire and look into Ronnie P's lifestyle and mine, but he was before me. And so sometimes people get that confused, or the internet will cross-reference it. I never met him or anything like that, but there's some other famous Gossets that were from the wrestling business. I'm not sure if your public's aware, but Eddie Graham and Mike Graham, their real names are Gossett.
Oh, I did not know that. Interesting.
That's a good knowledge right there.
Yeah.
They're Gossets. They went by Graham. So hopefully if I can finish out strong and leave a good name out there for the Gossets, that'd be good. Just one more good memory for some people out there. And what was the last part of that?
Yeah. Want to know if you would do a book or memoir?
A lot lot of wrestlers, a lot of friends, a lot of people ask me about that. I'm not sure how you do it. I've done a lot of different things, so I'm not sure. You know, I had a rough childhood, KG. It's really rough, man. And so I'm not sure what the overview of the book would be, because there's a lot to tell. Some stuff might be better left unsaid, or if it's a tell-all, or if it's wrestling related, promoter related, if it's something about overcoming, you know, life or yourself, even getting out of your own way. You know what I mean?
Well, go ahead.
I'm definitely would be interested, but I would hope that it would have a positive message in the end. Whenever I read the vice president's book, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Wow,
Yep.
man, that really touched home to me, and so I think there's a way to overcome a lot of life and end up with success, you know, at the end. So
Man, I'm a walking example. In 2008, my father passed away, and I went through a deep depression. I didn't care anymore. I started trying to drink myself to death. I ended up homeless. And in 2012, I started getting my shit together. And here I am now, 2025, and I'm so blessed, with everything that I have. So there's always a way to overcome things. The biggest obstacle in life is yourself. And I would love to have you back on once I get back from the CAC reunion in Vegas and talk about that part of your life. I think that you probably have a message that could reach a lot of people. I really do. Um, but my final question is this: do you keep up with today's product? And if so, we see so many wrestlers now doing really dangerous spots just for regular TV. Do you think that these spots should be saved for PLEs, pay-per-views, or whatever, to maybe kind of preserve their bodies to have a longer career in wrestling?
well, you know, I feel like when it comes to spots, certain guys have got to do what they got to do to get over and keep a spot. So I understand that. I don't like the overusage of super kicks, or whenever I was working and I try on my show, if I knew a guy has let's just say he's John Bradshaw, Layfield, or Stan Hansen, the lariat's going to be their finish. I'm not going to see 30 lariats before they get out there.
Right.
You need to save that. You need to know what your guys are doing in the back, and not be such an individual on that. But as far as the risk, these guys are new athletes. They do need to think of their future, but right now, if you don't perform or you don't draw money, your spot is not guaranteed. And then sometimes it's not guaranteed anyway. They can just decide they don't have anything for you, even though the fans are yelling your name, aka Karrion Kross, or R-Truth, or So the business has changed a lot since I wrestled, and my promotion is more about tradition and old school. We do have a lot of high spots and things like that, but I don't want to lose track of what brought us to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that a lot of people have to do what they're asked to do to be on the show. You
Right.
remember when we were wrestling, we didn't get time off for injury. You would lose your spot.
Right.
You better duct tape it, super glue it. I don't know what to tell you. So I think of that right there. Before we go, KG, I just want to give a shout out to some people. Would you care?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I was going to tell you to, anything you want to plug, any shout outs, go ahead and do it.
Just want to say that when people are talking bad about Hogan or his personal life, or saying negative things like, hell's too hot, using a quote for him and all these things, I think you should just shut your mouth and think about his kids and grandkids and people that care. He's dead, and there's nothing else you need to say. It's not going to change nothing. I think Kevin Nash said it well about telling people to, hey man, nobody really wants to hear what you got to say about that. You have a right to have your opinion, but just to get online and be so ugly about it, I don't appreciate that. Then you got Buff Bagwell, who we've had a long history. He's been on a lot of my shows, a lot of interaction in life together, roommates, and then he finally decided to have his leg taken off because he had so many injuries with that.
Yep.
We lived together when his leg was really bad, and we haven't talking much. And I just want to tell him if he hears this that I'm so proud of you, brother, for your sobriety and the man you are, and you got more courage than me or really anybody I know to go from Buff Bagwell, buff the stuff, but would make the decision to take the leg off to continue your future. I know you can do it. You've never been a quitter, and if I don't get to talk to you, I just want to tell you how proud and how much I love you, man. And I hope you get better, and you make a statement and let this be more of your testimony of how strong you are. And then last one to Lex Luger on the Hall of Fame. I'm so proud of you, Lex. Finally getting into the Hall of Fame, man. Lex Luger deserved it. Another guy that turned himself around. And anybody that don't know about Lex, you need to know he was a heck of a football player, and he's in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. So hey, man, y'all should research Lex Luger on football at Penn State and with the Hurricanes, and then on after that. That guy's a stud, man.
Yeah. Buff was just on my podcast about 3 weeks ago. And I have to tell you, I did not know what to expect from Buff because I was only exposed to Buff the stuff on TV, right? And he was one of the nicest guys that I've ever had on the podcast. He truly was a joy to speak to. It was about a week after he had his leg amputated, and I told him, I said, "You're not human, man. You're already back in the gym. You're already getting, planning on getting back into wrestling." I went, "Jesus, you have to be a machine." Yeah. What a great guy. And as far as what you say about Hogan, what I've said to people was this: Hogan has admitted he's made mistakes. He said things that he shouldn't have. But what's the point of all this education out there to help people overcome those things if the one key thing, forgiveness, is not in there as well? It's pointless unless you're able to forgive a person and let a man who showed that he changed his life actually live his life without him being judged.
Well, I agree with you, KG. Buff is a great guy. I'm glad to see it. Another guy that helped him and is a mentor and a friend to so many is DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. If you haven't met him or talked to him, he's a great guy. I love you, Dallas. Thank you for helping me and and talking to me about being the person I should be, man. I really appreciate you, Dally.
Well, I tell you what, Roddy, man, I would love to have you come back on in September to talk about the things you've gone through. If you're willing to do that, I think you probably have a great message for people to give them hope. So I would love to be able to feature you back on the podcast in September. If you're up to it, I'll get a hold of you. Guys, in about 15 minutes or so, myself, Bob Cook, Mark, and George Strong will be on doing a recap of Monday Night Raw. Our Tuesday shows are always a little crazy with Bob Cook on it. Hopefully you guys will come back for that. And again, please subscribe to our podcast. Ronnie, man, you are one great individual. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed speaking to you. You're always welcome to come back on. Hopefully you come back in September. Are you going to be in Vegas by chance for the CAC reunion?
I'm not sure. I have a show on Saturday night that's pretty big with some WWE people like Carlito and Elektra Lopez and the Barbarian. Okay. We're doing a fundraiser in Griffin, Georgia, south of Atlanta. But if I can make it happen, I would definitely love to be there. I miss all the people out there, especially Brian Blair and Pam Morrison and all them. They're awesome.
Yeah, I would love to be able to shake your hand and meet you in person. Is there anything you'd like to plug from UCW? Anything coming up?
Yeah, we got Hometown Throwdown. There's a little poster right there. It might have been seen all over line. It's coming up this Saturday night. Title Match Network will be airing it. And then October 4th up in Anderson, South Carolina, we got Fall Brawl. We're going to have Demolition, Powers of Pain, Tom Latimer, NWA champion. We're going to have a stud card there. Just check us out at ucwtv.com. Don't let the imitators fool you that try to go under Universal Championship Wrestling. I think you'll see when you go to our page, based on the people that we've been honored to have on our shows, you'll see the difference.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Again, thank you so much, guys. Hopefully I'll see you guys in 15 minutes. If not, you guys have a great rest of your week. Ronnie, have a great one, my friend.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.